This time is Tim Neeb. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend up to $48,222 to replace the broken chiller at the Berry County Sheriff's Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gibson, second by Smelker.
Morning.
Morning.
Floor is yours.
Couple weeks ago, Pete got hold of me and was filling me in on a problem they'd been having with one of their chillers. The chillers, the unit that brings cool air essentially into part of the jail, and all, from my understanding, all of the offices. So the front offices in part of that original jail building are being serviced by this unit. It's a old technology unit that basically has, they call it a dual deck system, and I don't want to get too deep into that other than it requires chilled air virtually year round. It uses air conditioning all through the winter as well as heating. It's probably not a terribly efficient unit, but it's just what they used back in those days. So anyway, the chiller has a couple, 2-3 different problems in it. The main board went out a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and obsolete. They don't have those boards. They can build them, but it's an 8-week project to get it built. And so the decision was made to convert it to mechanical operation, get rid of the electronics and just kind of have it run mechanically. After they did that, they found there were some more problems, and throughout the process they determined the heat exchanger went bad in this unit, which again is obsolete. They can build it if you want one built. But again, it's an 8-week process to get that built. Probably out there 8 to 10 weeks if we wanted to fix it, and the cost would approach $30,000 to fix it. And it would be a system that's using a refrigerant that is essentially been outlawed by the government. It's still being used. And there's still some of it available, but none of it's being produced anymore. So we then determined to get some prices on new units. And so we've got 3 quotes. I'm not sure if you have all 3. I know you have 2 of them. I have since received a 3rd quote from another vendor. Which does not change the request, by the way. It was a little bit more expensive than the low bid contractor. If we don't repair or put something new in, this summer is just going to be unbearable in the jail. I talked to Pete a week ago and asked him, what are temperatures doing in those areas? And a week ago, because we don't have that cool side working, Pete relayed it was approaching 80 degrees in the office areas. So as summer comes, it's just going to get worse.
Good question. What's the projected life of this unit? And could it be transferred to the new jail?
The projected life, I think, generally the new equipment right now, and I didn't look that up, but a projected life probably would be 20 to 25 years for something new. Could it be? It probably could. Now, generally, equipment is purchased and sized for the job it needs to do. So I don't think you would build the jail saying we want to use this piece of equipment. You would probably build the jail and then determine whether this piece of equipment would fit a need there. So it possibly could.
Wouldn't you think, though, in a new jail there'd be something more efficient out there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Have the air conditioning running in the winter?
Any other questions for Tim?
I do have a question, I'm sorry. So when I was reading this item, it said that because the board malfunctioned, apparently it continued to work nonstop and it broke the condenser?
So, essentially, this board went bad, and the piece, there's a what they call a flow switch in this unit. The flow switch was bad, and so this chiller continued to operate without turning on and off like it was supposed to. And so what that did was it froze up. I mean, it just made an ice cube out of the heat exchanger. So essentially, you got two parts. You've got this water that goes through the building, which comes and circulates, and there's a heat exchanger that takes the heat out of that water and sends it outside. That froze, and it cracked it when it froze. And so the part that sends that heat outside is done with Freon. And so the Freon started to mix with the water, and it just caused all sorts of problems.
So are those on like annual or some
Yes.
kind of a
Yes.
check of how it's,
Yes.
okay, annually or?
Quarterly.
Quarterly?
Quarterly.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And David?
Tim, first of all, I appreciate your agenda item. Very well written, and for a guy that doesn't have any expertise, I'm talking about with chillers, that made a lot of sense going through the 5 different things and what it was and why. I'm assuming you're telling us from this request that this is the least expensive way to go with this versus replacing the entire system or looking at an entire AC unit combined system for the jail?
Yeah, correct. Certainly, the repair would be the least expensive, but I don't, just because of, it's all obsolete. We could have another piece go out, in a couple of weeks and have the unit down. So part 2 of that would be, do we replace the third part of that system, which is that air handler that's up in the mezzanine? And I just, although there'd be some efficiencies that we would gain by that, it would be a tremendously expensive piece to replace.
We've already spent close to $5,000 just to find the problem, because it stopped working, so they couldn't cycle it to see what was wrong with it, so they had to repair that, and once they repaired that, to be able to turn it on, all the other problems surfaced. So we've already have money into this system that
Okay.
adding more to it, and then with no guarantee of, like Tim said, the next part breaks. We're down again in August, waiting 13, 14 weeks for them to design a part to replace it, so.
Okay, and this unit, this chiller and the connected parts thereof, this is the AC air handling for the entire jail or offices jail, or what is this?
So it's the front office, so the whole sheriff's office portion, all the offices up front, lobby, all the soft offices. In the jail, it's all the old part of the jail, so the pre-76 portion.
Okay.
So it's the front half as you enter in.
But to replace the whole system would be hundreds of thousands of dollars versus,
I would assume so, yeah. You run into a couple different things. You would run into plumbing issues. You would run into I just can't imagine. I mean, I've never taken the opportunity to go up in the mezzanine above the jail cells to see how that thing's shoehorned in there. So to get that even out of there and to try and replace it with something else, I got to believe would just be a
Very labor intensive.
labor-intensive nightmare.
okay, so this is by far the best alternative as far as getting a system up and running
Yes,
in a couple weeks?
most likely, yes.
Okay. And hopefully when they get this chiller in there, you're confident that will take care of the problem and, okay.
It will be working as well as it ever has.
Any other questions for
Thank
Tim?
you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to spend $48,222 to replace the broken chiller at the Berry County Sheriff's Department. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Item is approved.
Thank you.
Next before the board is Pam Palmer. So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint James French of 171 Hunters Trail Court, Middleville, Michigan, 49333, to serve on the Berry County Jury Board for the term beginning May 1st, 2019, and ending April 30th, 2025, pursuant to the recommendation of Chief Judge William Doherty.
I will make that motion.
Support?
Motion by Connor, support by Jackson. Pam, the floor is yours.
Double duty, huh?
Based on the recommendation of Chief Judge William Doherty, I'm here today to ask for your approval to appoint James French actually reappoint James French to a 6-year term on the jury board. He actually he served a partial term. He replaced Lori Hamilton when she moved out of the county.
Any questions for Pam? Ben?
This is a technical question, but the appointment is recommended by each chair of the major political parties in the county, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The original appointment was, yes.
Now, Vice Chair Connor is the chair of the Republican Party in this county. It doesn't affect the vote on this committee since it's a committee meeting, but does Vivian need to abstain when we get to the BOC meeting?
I don't know.
Does she
I
have a
wouldn't-
financial gain?
Yeah, I wouldn't believe she would have a financial gain in appointing Mr. French to that committee.
I don't know that answer.
We can research it and definitely have an answer before
I don't
next
think
week.
it's that much of a deal, but
It's not like
we're reappointing.
it's a reappointment,
Okay, so it was a recommendation from somebody else.
correct?
All right, it's not a big deal.
Any other questions?
If you want me to redraw, if you want me to, pull my motion back so someone else can second it, I will.
I don't think it's necessary. One, because it's a cow meeting. Two, the consensus is there's no conflict. But if you'd like to.
No, I mean, you're right, I'm just forwarding it onto the cow, but.
Any other concerns? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint James French of 171 Hunters Trail Court, Middleville, Michigan, 49333, to serve on the Berry County Jury Board for a term beginning May 1st, 2019, and ending April 30th, 2025, pursuant to the recommendation of Chief Judge William Doherty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're just running a little late.
I have two items before you this morning. The first is to request adoption of the budget calendar. This work there for 2020, and it is in the same format that we've seen for the past for many years, we'll just say. Begins with this meeting, you recommending it, and then ends in October with the board holding a public hearing for the budget, and then ideally adopting it at that point. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. One thing that we don't identify in detail are kind of those workshops that the board might want, and appeals hearings. So you can think about that a little bit. You've got some time. That generally occurs in August some point. So think about whether we want to have special meetings, separate meetings, how we might want to do that. But it follows the same format that we have used in the past.
So let me start by getting the motion on the floor here.
Oh, sorry.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the 2020 budget calendar.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Jackson, support by Gibson. Now we can discuss it. Questions for Michael?
No.
All righty, seeing none. The question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the 2020 budget calendar. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of resolution number 19-10, resolution establishing authorized signatories for the MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Jackson, support by Gibson. Michael?
Sure. This is a resolution that does just that. It establishes the named signatories. And if you look at the resolution, we've identified the chairperson of the board as the primary signatory, with then additional positions of vice chairperson and county administrator. And it's a sort of a form resolution that MERS identified as we did the last service credit purchase. MERS informed us that they do not have on file this form resolution, and they must be going through and cleaning up things, looking at who has them and who doesn't have them on file. It doesn't change anything that we do. Any changes that might require signatures, we bring before the board and authorize somebody to sign them. But MERS also would like this form on file. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Michael?
Is there a resolution to say that we don't approve of purchasing?
So there is a resolution that the board could adopt. If you would like to close, if you may, the opportunity for generic service, the purchase of generic service credits. This resolution, and I don't think you're suggesting that, but just to be clear, this resolution doesn't approve of or otherwise. It just simply says who's going to be the recognized signatories for any either service credit purchases or any other contracts that may be agreed upon between the county and MERS. But yes, there is also a resolution if the board wanted to consider closing the ability for individuals to purchase generic service credit.
Vivian?
Just because people in the audience, I don't know if you can see this, but it's generic. So when he says the chair and the vice chair, he's not talking about Chairman Wing or myself. He's talking about who's ever in that position.
That's correct.
It's not like a bank where you actually have to, sign your name.
No, it saves the literal
Right.
pain of writing out the title of that job, which is chairperson of the County Board of Commissioners. So all it's going to change is it's going to be typed on that form.
Right.
It will probably save your hand some pain.
Just to be correct, in this case, if we have, Heather will still need to sign it.
Right.
But it's.
Correct.
If Heather doesn't run at some point, and there's a new chair, we
Right.
don't have to go through and re-adopt the resolution to change her name.
Correct.
Okay.
Wanted that to be clear. It's who's ever sitting in that
Yeah,
seat.
this board is deciding forever, as long as we work with MERS, that it'll be the chair that signs. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 19-10, resolution establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Item is approved. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Oh, wait, I forgot public comment. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes. I can't adjourn until you guys let me.
Need to approve the CLA.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Rick Moore with the Berry County Parks and Rec Board, and I'd like to promote recreation like I have all my life. And May is National Bicycle Month. And if you want to feel like a kid again, buy a new bicycle and go for a ride. And if 2 wheels are too scary for you, you get a 3-wheeled bicycle. And they make 4-wheeled bicycles too, in case you're worried about falling over. But get out there and ride. You'll feel like a kid again. I bought a new electric bicycle a month ago, and oh my gosh, is that wonderful. After spending 12 years mowing the trail for the county, I kind of got out of shape. But with this electric bike, it's like having an extra pair of legs. So there are no hills anymore with an electric bicycle. Also, the most important thing is get out and vote today. They got a school millage coming up, and you might not appreciate how they're spending the money, but it's important that we educate the kids, because without education, we're all ignorant. And while I've always said that why spend money to buy liquor and to just make yourself stupid when stupid comes free, why not educate ourselves instead? And you can't have too much education. So thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there anyone else for limited public comment? Seeing none, is there any other business to come before the committee? There being no further business and without objection, the committee will stand now adjourned.